Welcome to another wrap-up, aka a clusterfuck of random books, cause your girl doesn't have a type. In the month of September, I read 6 books and I did not finish a very popular book. And I also have a few unpopular opinions about some books. Let's get into that. The first book that I read this month was How to Stop Time by Matt Haig. This is an adult historical sci-fi. I also think that this is the first fiction book that I've read that was written by a white male author, so... The story is about a guy who looks like he's 41 years old on the outside, but he actually has a condition that makes him age very, very slowly. Kind of like how I am 23, but I look like a fucking 12-year-old still. So this guy has been alive for centuries. He's been all over the world. He's performed with Shakespeare. He's met Scott Fitzgerald. He is basically old as balls. He's part of a secret society that has other people just like him, and the one rule that they have in that society is to not fall in love. Have we not learned from A Walk to Remember and To All the Boys I Loved Before? If you literally make a rule about not falling in love, you're gonna fall in love. So despite centuries of him not being close to people, you would think that by the time he does fall in love, it would be an amazing sweeping romance. But really, he just started off looking out the window and saw the first female character you're introduced to, and then he falls for her based on nothing at all. So the book jumps between flashbacks of him in present day and him in the past and goes through the passage of time. It also explores themes about the human condition, blah, 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 blah. I rated this 2 stars. I think that the concept is interesting, but the characters were bland. You would think after 400 years of living, this guy would develop a personality. And yet here we are. I could tell from the writing that he was trying to be very sentimental and make a discussion about the human condition, but it just felt very contrived. There was a lot of filler throughout the book where the main character meets these famous historical figures throughout his life. So he's performing with Shakespeare in London, but then all of a sudden he becomes an explorer with Captain Cook. And then later he's sharing cocktails with Scott Fitzgerald and a whole bunch of other name dropping that was very random and not relevant to the story. If anything, it was just very jarring to have all of these famous names dropped and just made the story so much more implausible. I'm sure it was fun for the writer to drop in all of these famous historical figures, but I'm trying to read a story, not an all-star cast from Wikipedia. Like, really? He just happened to have met every famous person throughout history just because he's lived during that time period? Like, I'm living in 2018. Does that mean I know Beyonce? So yeah, this book was not for me. After that, I read a young adult sci-fi novel called The Loneliest Girl in the Universe, aka the title of my biography. It's about a girl who lives in a spaceship by herself after her parents died, and she is on a mission to establish a second home for humanity. She's been living alone, but then she hears news about a new spaceship that has launched from Earth, and she begins to communicate with this guy from that spaceship via email, and due to the distance between them, their messages actually take months to transmit across space. So it's a very long form of communication between each other, but she still finds herself falling in love and feeling this connection with this other guy. But of course, there is a secret at foot. And the whole story is really about her trying to figure out what's going on and what's really happening on Earth. You know, I had mixed feelings about this book. I ultimately rated it a 3. Although this book does have some basic parts, there are some good nuggets to it. Really, the driving force is the twist at the end of this book and the journey leading up to the twist at the end, because as you read along, it's very clear that some shit is going down. Some shit smells fishy and it ain't space food. So it did make me want to keep reading along to find out what was going to happen. You're limited to just her perspective, so you get only nuggets of like information about the war happening on planet Earth, as well as traumatic flashbacks of how her parents died. And so you're trying to fit all these pieces together to figure it out and try to determine what the twist at the end is going to be. Overall, the book is a very easy and fast read. It reminds me a bit of the Shelter music video from Porter Robinson, and also a little bit of Crust from the Lunar Chronicles, because the main girl has a very similar personality to her. She's very innocent and naive, and the main guy also kind of reminded me of Thorn because he's a very likable, charming person. So their dynamic was a bit similar to that. And then the twist at the end and the conclusion of the book made a lot of sense for the emotional journey that the author was trying to pave way for this main character. And I think it honed in on the character development of her. So I'm satisfied with it, and I actually find it refreshing. So the best part of it, again, is really the twist. The main caveat for me and why I can't rate it higher than 3 stars is the writing. It's just too basic. I felt like I couldn't really appreciate the story as much because of how juvenile the writing was. I think maybe if I read this book while I was in middle school, I would appreciate it more and be a lot more forgiving. And I'm not hating on simplistic writing because I enjoyed We Are Okay by Nina LaCour, for example, which has very simple writing, but it was still very tonally effective. Whereas this book here, I actually feel like the simplicity of the writing reduced the effectiveness of the story and the themes that it was trying to convey. And as I thought more about it, I realized that just counting on a great twist at the end isn't enough to justify a good story if most of it is not written well. Like, the book has to maintain good quality from beginning to end. And that's why I feel meh about it. If you're more forgiving of writing styles and you really want to know what the twist at the end is, you can go ahead and check the book out. It's really short and easy to read, so it's not much of a commitment. It actually took me like 2 days to read it. Basically, this is an easy book that you could pick for a booktubeathon when you want to read a really short book quickly, but not if you were stuck on an island and you had to pick one book to read for the rest of your life. If you're stuck on an island, you should pick a better book like The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Damn, that was the smoothest transition ever. The 7 Husbands of motherfucking Evelyn Hugo was some good shit. I picked up this book because it was raved about all across BookTube. I had never seen any negative review or criticism for this book. Even from people who are more critical readers, they still raved about this book a lot, so I knew that it had to be good. And you know what? You bitches were right, because this book, Evelyn Hugo is just very nuanced and real, and just has set a high caliber of how characters should be written. It tells the story of a woman who was a Hollywood icon and tells about her career from the 1950s to the late 80s. She's iconic because she's beautiful and enigmatic, and also she has married 7 husbands throughout her lifetime, so the book dives into her relationships with each person, and the things that she had to do and the things that she had to sacrifice to get to where she is now. A cool thing that I didn't realize until I actually read the book is that Evelyn Hugo is actually a Cuban actress, but she had bleached her hair blonde in order to assimilate to Hollywood. And it was interesting to go into the identity politics, grappling with her ethnicity as well as her sexuality and where she fits within a very whitewashed and heteronormative society. I mean, if you think about it, what are the implications of a non-white person bleaching their hair blonde regularly? Wait. I honestly wasn't sure about this book at first in like the first 100 pages because people had hyped it up so much and I was nervous that I wouldn't fulfill the hype. So when I was reading it in the beginning, I was like, I can see it as a 3 and as a 4, but I really don't know why it's a 5-star yet. But by the time I finished this book, I knew it definitely deserved 5 stars. Because in the beginning, you don't really know why you should care about this woman. You don't really know her story yet. But by the time you finish, it's just a lot. Like, by the time you finish, you have just been through so much of her life contained within 300 to 400 pages. It's such an emotional roller coaster. And I don't know, man, I just enjoyed it. It was some good shit. Like, after I finished the book, I basically spent 2 hours lying in my bed, listening to sad songs and thinking about Evelyn Hugo's life. She's a star, but she cries. The emotional journey that she goes through in these pages, how she deals with loss and love, is just so impactful. And it's just so crazy to think about all the different things that can happen to you in life and all the different trials and tribulations that you can go through. Not only did Evelyn Hugo feel real, all of the other characters felt real too, including the men. Like, some of the men here are so awful, but they weren't unrealistic. For example, one of her husbands that she had married ended up being a very abusive man. The way that the character himself was written was realistic because it was one of those things where he was a guy who, when he is on top of the world and when things are going well for him, he is an amazing person. But when things are not going well for him, and when you take off those rose-colored glasses, he lashes out his failures onto you. It's very realistic to get into a relationship like that that, and I have known people who are like that. And the 7 husbands that she has vary in terms of awfulness to really cool people. But for the awful husbands particularly, it really goes to show that there are some people who will love you under specific circumstances. And I think that's just a great commentary on relationships in general. And honestly, when I was reading the book, I just wanted this shit to happen. I just wanted everybody to get together and just beat the shit out of Don Adler, because he fucking sucked. I was thinking of doing an energy alignment chart video like I did with the Lunar Chronicles, because there were so many great characters here. But then I realized that this would be the shortest video ever, because Evelyn Hugo fulfills all of the boxes on the chart. She is a versatile queen. That fucking nuance, that fucking depth, that's some good fucking shit. When a character can fulfill all of those boxes, you know that she is well-rounded and nuanced and well-developed. I think that anyone would enjoy this book, but in particular, if you are looking for good bi representation, this is the best that I've seen. And I typically don't even read historical fiction, but it was just really well done. I think it also shed a lot of light to why How to Stop Time was not very good, because in this book, it has so many random historical events and famous people happening. But then in this book, when there are historical events being referenced, like the Stonewall riots and Ronald Reagan, it is actually relevant to the story. It actually added realism to the book rather than detracting it like How to Stop Time does. He had very sentimental writing that tried to show the human condition and human relationships, and it just fell very short. In contrast, going through all of these different relationships and very real people here was much more effective. And the historical events that happened were actually relevant to the main character's emotional journey. And this is why I pretty much read mostly female authors, because they tend to do it better, in my opinion. And then after that, I realized I hadn't read any nonfiction, so I picked up Things I Have Learned in My Life So Far by Stefan Sackmeister. So if you are a designer, you already know who this guy is. He's one of the most famous people in the design industry. He's a super creative guy. A lot of people say that he's pretentious, but fortunately that didn't really detract me from consuming this book. He basically kept a diary under the title of Things I Have Learned in My Life So Far, and then he turned some of the writings into this book here. So the really cool part of this book is the laser cut slipcase, and inside of it, instead of a traditional book, there are these little pamphlets that separate each life lesson that he has learned. And so when you go through the different pamphlets, there's a different cover each time. Yeah, I'm just gonna flip through so that you can see what I'm talking about. So each pamphlet focuses on one life lesson, and he has shown that through some creative typographic treatment. So here it says, worrying solves nothing. Then he has some kind of paragraph that talks about the context of that life lesson and a little bit about how he had put these things together. What I appreciate from him making these typographic treatments is that he didn't resort to the most overused cliche thing that you can think of. He really tries to kind of push the elements of how to convey the type. For example, when he was trying to spell the word it, he smeared honey on his chest to try to get bees to line up there to spell the word. So he's a little, avant-garde, but I appreciate that he tries to change it up and be different. Sometimes I think it doesn't work, but then other times I do think it's interesting, and I appreciate that he tries to expand his boundaries a little bit with these different formats. Overall, I rated this book 3 stars. I think that the design and the visuals are definitely the strongest part of it. The packaging design and the cover is definitely the most innovative approach that I've seen. I'm trying to stack this pamphlet back in. Damn it. The approach to the cover is very unique, is what I'm trying to say. So aesthetically speaking, it is a very nice book. But for the content itself and for more analytical readers, I would say that there is a bit more to be desired. I would have rated this book higher if Sackmeister had explained the reasoning behind some of his design choices and given us more of a behind-the-scenes look into it. His philosophy and his life lessons aren't unique or original, but the creative decisions and the typographic treatments that he has done are original. So he might as well have gone all the way and really explained in depth and given us a behind the scenes look. But I felt like he didn't really do that as much as he could have, and that's why I had to rate this book 3 stars. And then after that, I picked up a YA fantasy book called Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. I picked this book up because there were a lot of read-alongs this month for it, and I wanted to join along. However, this was the book that I ended up not finishing. And this is the first book throughout the whole year that I actually did not finish. Because even when a book is terrible, I will at least try to finish it to the very end. But this was just I think I was like 100 or 150 pages in, and I realized that it wouldn't have been worth it if I tried to continue it. Because this shit is like 500 pages. She a thick girl, and I just felt like it wasn't worth the commitment. I know a lot of people really liked this book, but it was kind of a miss for me. I couldn't find myself really engaging with the writing or the characters. And by the time I was like past 100 pages in, I still didn't really care for either of the writing or the characters. And when I tell this to some people, they have said that like, oh, the book does have a slow pace in the beginning, but I'm okay with books that have a slow beginning. Like Six of Crows, for example. That plot didn't even start till like 300 pages in. But despite that, I was still engaged with the writing and the characters, and I saw promise in the story that was developing. And I just didn't feel that connection with this book. I don't even think that it's a bad book. I think it was just a miss for me. So that's why I didn't finish it, because I realized that my rating wouldn't even be accurate to how the book is objectively speaking. So yeah, this book was just not for me. So I felt really bad about not finishing this book. So I decided to pick up a really easy book in comparison that I know I can finish, and that is They Both Die at the End by Adam Severa. I'm actually still reading this book. I have like 100 pages left to go, but I wanted to film this video today so that I can put it up at a reasonable time. This is another beloved book that so far I do not have a popular opinion for. It takes place in our world, except we have developed some sort of technology where we are notified on the day of our deaths so that we can prepare for it accordingly. So there are two teenagers who are notified that they're going to die. There is an app called The Last Friend so that they can match with someone and just spend their last day together. And that's how these two meet. And so it's supposed to be this emotional journey of them dealing with mortality and being gay. I don't want to finalize my rating until I'm completely done with this book. Hi, it's a new day, new clothes, new location, same bullshit. I'm filming this in my room because I have a new neighbor moving in today, and I just don't want him to hear me and find out that I'm a fucking loser. I've decided to refilm this portion of the video because I finished this book last night, so I just want to give my proper overall thoughts. When I was originally filming, I was debating between giving this book 2 or 3 stars, and now that I am done with it, I am certain that I will be giving this 2 stars. I'm aware that this is a beloved book and that everybody has cried over it and it has emotionally resonated with the hearts of youth around the world. But I just can't say the same. I think it's great though that people love this book. Having a book that shows a healthy queer relationship between teens, especially teenage boys, is super important. But that being said, the diversity and the concept were just not enough for me to like this book and ignore all the other things that I didn't like about the book. And the main reason why I did not like it is because I'm homophobic. Just kidding. Can you imagine if I actually meant that? That would be a hot mess. There are a few reasons why I did not like this book. For example, those were mad chill times. My karma score is gonna be jacked, legit. This brunette girl, mad pretty, is bawling when a guy advances on her with some tired ass pickup line. Maybe you'll live to see another day with some vitamin me in your system. Bitch, if I was this girl, I would hope I die at the end. I love you guys, I say. No one cracks homo jokes. This shit is revolutionary. And then the last thing that I want to say that I didn't like about this book was the stove part. Like, if you read the book, you know what I'm talking about. Like, bitch, really? A fucking stove? Like, if you liked the book, then I'm happy for you. I think any book that kind of helps people cope with their anxiety or their depression or deal with their sexuality is something that is very necessary for those specific people. But for me, it's just gonna be a no. So I guess I'm homophobic now or something. I don't know. Just dislike this video. Okay, so I totally forgot to mention this, but I also read Vicious by V.E. Schwab. I don't know why this completely blew out of my mind because I made a whole video review about it. But yeah, that was another book I read. For more details, you can watch the video. I rated it 4 stars. I thought it was a good book. It could have done a few things better, but I do think that because Victoria Schwab has improved her writing since writing Vicious, her sequel will probably be a lot better. So yeah, see you guys in October. Bye.
And it's none of my business, and I don't wanna get involved. If you're thinking that she's good, I think you should be tough. She got you on your